The red sun of Kepler 442b cast long shadows across the ruined city. Sergeant Jake Morrison crouched behind a broken wall and scanned the empty streets through his rifle scope. Smoke still rose from the buildings where the fighting had been worst. The smell of burned metal and alien blood filled the air. "Clear on the left," whispered Corporal Lisa Chen through the radio. She was hiding behind an overturned vehicle about 50 meters away. "Nothing moving on the right side either," reported Private Ben Taylor from his position near the old hospital building. Jake looked at his watch. They had been searching the ruins of New Denver Colony for 3 hours. Command wanted them to find any survivors and check for enemy activity. So far they had found neither. The colony looked completely dead. "Move forward to the next block," Jake ordered quietly. "Stay low and keep your eyes open." The 3 Marines moved carefully through the rubble. This had been a nice place once. Jake could see the remains of parks and shops and homes where families had lived. Now everything was broken glass and twisted metal. The war between humans and the Zephyrian Empire had turned this peaceful colony into a wasteland. They reached the town square where the worst battle had happened. The ground was covered with strange crystal fragments that sparkled in the red sunlight. Purple blood stained the broken stones. But this was not human blood or Zephyrian blood. This was something else. "Sarge, look at this," Ben called softly from near the fountain in the center of the square. Jake hurried over and saw what had caught Ben's attention. Bodies lay scattered around the fountain. But these were not human bodies or the tall gray Zephyrians they had been fighting. These aliens were smaller and covered in what looked like natural armor. Their skin had a blue-green color and seemed to glow faintly even in death. 2 different alien species fought here, Lisa observed as she examined the scene. "The Zephyrians and these other ones," Jake nodded. Intelligence had mentioned that the Zephyrian Empire was having trouble with some of their subject races. It looked like the rebellion had reached this planet too. They moved through the battlefield carefully, checking each body to make sure it was really dead. The aliens had strange weapons that fired energy bolts instead of bullets. Scorch marks on the wall showed where the fighting had been most intense. That was when Jake heard it. A very soft sound, almost like a whisper. He held up his hand to stop his team and listened carefully. There it was again. Someone was still alive. "Did you hear that?" he asked the others. "Hear what?" Ben replied. Jake followed the sound toward a pile of rubble near the fountain. As he got closer, he could see movement. Something was trapped under the broken stones and metal pieces. "Help me move this stuff," he ordered. The 3 Marines worked together to lift away the heavy debris. Underneath, they found an alien girl who looked like she was barely alive. She was one of the blue-green-skinned aliens, but much smaller than the others they had seen. She could not be more than 16 or 17 years old if she was human. The girl had 4 arms instead of 2, and all of them were badly hurt. One arm was bent at a strange angle that made Jake feel sick to look at. Her natural armor was cracked and broken in many places. Purple blood seeped from her wounds. Her skin, which should have been glowing bright, was very dim and flickering like a dying light bulb. "She's just a kid," Lisa whispered. The alien girl's eyes opened and looked at Jake. They were large and silver like mirrors. She tried to say something but only made a weak gasping sound. Jake could see she was dying. "We should call this in," Ben said nervously. "Command will want to know about this." "She'll be dead before they get here," Jake replied. He was already pulling medical supplies from his pack. "Sarge, what are you doing?" Ben asked. "She's the enemy." Jake looked at his young private. "She's a kid who's been left to die by her own people. That makes her a victim, not an enemy." Lisa knelt down beside Jake. "What do you need me to do?" Jake began applying pressure to the worst bleeding wounds. "Get the emergency medical kit from your pack. Ben, watch for any movement in the area." The alien girl watched Jake with those strange silver eyes as he worked on her injuries. He had been trained to give first aid to humans, not aliens. So he had to guess about what might help her. Her blood was purple instead of red, and it was thicker than human blood. Her bones seemed to be made of something harder than regular bone. "Her breathing is very shallow," Lisa observed as she helped bandage the wounds. Jake checked the girl's pulse by putting his finger on her neck. Her heart was beating very fast and weak. "She's going into shock. We need to get her warm and get some fluids into her." He wrapped his own jacket around the small alien girl and gave her water from his canteen. She drank a little bit and seemed to get slightly stronger. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to something carved into the girl's armor. "It looks like a name or rank. The symbols were completely alien, but Jake memorized the pattern. Maybe someone back at base could translate it. He continued working on her injuries, cleaning wounds and applying bandages designed for humans to an alien body that was completely different. The girl tried to speak again. This time Jake could hear that she was saying actual words, but in a language he did not understand. Her voice was musical and high, like wind chimes in the breeze. "It's okay," Jake said softly, even though he knew she probably could not understand him. "We're going to help you." Something in his tone must have gotten through to her because she stopped trying to talk and just watched him work. Her silver eyes followed his every movement. "Sarge, we've got company," Ben announced from his lookout position. 3 Zephyrian flyers coming this way from the east. Jake looked up at the sky and saw the triangle-shaped aircraft approaching fast. "How long until they get here?" "Maybe 2 minutes." Jake made a quick decision. "We're taking her with us." "What?" Ben stared at him. "Sir, we can't bring an alien back to base." "Command will have our heads." "Command can court-martial me later," Jake replied as he carefully lifted the injured girl in his arms. She weighed much less than a human would, maybe because her bones were hollow like a bird's. "Right now, I'm not leaving a wounded kid to die." Lisa grabbed Jake's rifle and pack. "Where are we going?" Jake looked around the ruined square and spotted a drainage tunnel that led away from the city center. "That way. The tunnel should hide us from their sensors." They ran toward the tunnel as the sound of the Zephyrian aircraft got louder. Jake tried to be gentle with the alien girl, but speed was more important than comfort right now. She made small sounds of pain but did not cry out. They reached the tunnel just as the first Zephyrian flyer passed overhead. The aircraft circled the area where they had been, scanning with bright blue lights. Jake pressed himself against the tunnel wall and held the alien girl close to his chest. He could feel her heart beating rapidly against his arm. After several long minutes, the aircraft moved on. Jake waited until he was sure they were gone before speaking. "We'll follow this tunnel back toward our base," he whispered. "It should come out near the old mining station." As they started walking through the dark tunnel, Jake looked down at the alien girl in his arms. Her skin was glowing a little brighter now, which he hoped was a good sign. She was looking up at him with those mirror-like eyes, and for the first time since they found her, she seemed calm. Jake had no idea what he was going to tell his commanding officer when they got back to base, but he knew he had made the right choice. Nobody, human or alien, should be left to die alone on a battlefield. The tunnel was dark and wet. Jake carried the alien girl carefully while Lisa and Ben walked ahead with their weapons ready. Water dripped from the ceiling and made small splashing sounds that echoed in the darkness. The girl in Jake's arms was breathing better now, but she was still very weak. "How much further?" Lisa whispered. Jake checked his compass. "About half a mile. The tunnel should come out near the old mining equipment." The alien girl stirred and made a soft sound. Her silver eyes opened and looked at Jake. She tried to lift one of her forearms but winced in pain. Jake adjusted his grip to make her more comfortable. "Easy there," he said quietly. "We're almost safe." She tilted her head like she was trying to understand his words. Then she whispered something in her own language. Her voice sounded like music even when she was hurt. After 20 more minutes of walking, they saw light at the end of the tunnel. Ben climbed out first and checked that the area was clear. Then Jake handed the alien girl up to him while he climbed out himself. They were behind their forward base now. Jake could see the fence and guard towers in the distance. Getting inside without being seen would be the tricky part. "There's the supply truck." Lisa pointed to a vehicle parked near the back gate. "Driver's probably having coffee with the guards." Jake nodded. They could hide in the back of the truck and get inside that way. He picked up the alien girl again. She was so light that carrying her was easy, but he worried about her injuries getting worse. They reached the truck without being spotted. The back was full of medical supplies and food containers. Jake found a soft spot between some blankets and laid the girl down gently. "Stay here with her," he told Lisa. "Ben and I will go find Dr. Williams." "What if someone sees her?" Lisa asked. "Tell them she's a refugee." "That's what she is now." Jake and Ben walked toward the main building like nothing unusual had happened. The base was busy with soldiers coming and going. Nobody paid attention to 2 more Marines walking around. They found Dr. Kate Williams in the medical tent. She was a tall woman with short red hair and kind eyes. She had been an emergency room doctor before the war started. Now she took care of wounded soldiers on this alien planet far from Earth. "Jake, what can I do for you?" she asked when she saw them. "Doc, I need your help with something unusual," Jake said. We found a wounded civilian in the ruins of New Denver. Dr. Williams grabbed her medical bag. How bad is it? Pretty bad. Multiple fractures, blood loss, possible internal injuries. Where is this civilian now? Jake hesitated. In the supply truck by the back gate. Doc, there's something else you should know. She's not human. Dr. Williams stopped walking. What do you mean not human? She's an alien. One of the blue-skinned ones that were fighting the Zephyrians. She's just a kid, maybe 16 years old. Her own people left her to die. The doctor stared at Jake for a long moment. You brought an alien to our base? I brought a wounded girl who needed help, Jake replied. Will you help her or not? Dr. Williams picked up her medical bag again. Show me. They walked back to the supply truck where Lisa was keeping watch. The alien girl was awake and looking around with those silver eyes. When she saw Jake, she seemed to relax a little. Dr. Williams climbed into the truck and knelt beside the girl. Well, you're certainly not in any of my medical textbooks, she said softly. The alien girl watched nervously as the doctor examined her injuries. Dr. Williams was gentle and careful, but the girl still made small sounds of pain. Forearms, hollow bones, different blood chemistry, the doctor muttered to herself. Her skin seems to be bioluminescent, fascinating. Can you help her? Jake asked. I can try, but I'll need to get her to the medical facility. We can't do much here in a truck. What about Commander Hayes? He's not going to like this. Dr. Williams looked at the alien girl who was watching them with frightened eyes. Let me worry about the commander. You worry about getting her inside without causing a panic. They wrapped the girl in blankets so she looked like a wounded human soldier. Jake carried her while the others provided cover. They made it to the medical facility without anyone asking questions. Dr. Williams had Jake put the girl on an examination table in a private room. She turned on the lights and got a good look at the injuries for the first time. This is going to be challenging, she admitted. Her anatomy is similar to humans but different enough to make things complicated. The alien girl lay very still on the table. She seemed to understand that these humans were trying to help her, but she was clearly scared. Her skin glowed very dimly, much dimmer than it should have been. Dr. Williams started by cleaning the wounds and stopping the bleeding. The girl's blood was thick and purple and clotted differently than human blood. The doctor had to adjust her techniques to work with the alien physiology. 2 of her arms are definitely broken, Dr. Williams said as she worked. Looks like she has some internal bleeding too. Her breathing is better though. Jake watched from beside the table. The alien girl kept looking at him like he was her anchor in this strange place. When the medical procedures hurt, she would look at his face and seem to find comfort there. What's that symbol on her armor? Dr. Williams asked. Jake looked at the carved markings he had noticed before. I think it might be her name, or maybe her rank. We should call her something. I can't keep thinking of her as the alien girl. The girl heard them talking and whispered something in her musical language. She pointed to herself and repeated the same sound several times. Lyra, Jake said, trying to copy the sound she made. Is that your name, Lyra? The girl's skin glowed a little brighter and she nodded. It was the first time she had responded to anything they said. Hello, Lyra, Dr. Williams said with a smile. I'm Kate, this is Jake, we're going to take care of you. Lyra looked back and forth between them. She whispered something that sounded like she was trying to copy their names. Dr. Williams continued working on Lyra's injuries. She had to set the broken bones in her arms without knowing exactly how alien bones healed. She used equipment designed for humans on a completely different species, but her years of medical experience helped her adapt. Her vital signs are getting stronger, the doctor reported. I think we got the bleeding stopped in time. Jake felt relief wash over him. She's going to be okay? I think so, but she'll need time to heal, and we'll need to figure out what she can eat. Her digestive system might not handle human food. That was when Commander Richard Hayes walked into the room. He was a tall man with gray hair and stern eyes. He looked at Lyra on the medical table and then at Jake. Sergeant Morrison, would you mind explaining why there's an alien in my medical facility? Jake stood at attention. Sir, we found her wounded and abandoned on the battlefield. I made the decision to bring her here for medical treatment. You made the decision, the commander repeated slowly, without consulting your chain of command. Yes, sir. There wasn't time to wait for orders. Commander Hayes walked closer to the examination table. Lyra watched him nervously. Her skin dimmed again and she moved slightly closer to Jake's side of the table. She's afraid of you, Dr. Williams observed. She trusts Jake, but she's scared of the rest of us. How do we know she's not a spy? The commander asked. How do we know this isn't some kind of trick? Jake looked at Lyra lying on the table with her broken arms and frightened eyes. Sir, she's barely alive. Her own people left her to die. I don't think she's in any condition to spy on anyone. Commander Hayes was quiet for a long moment. He studied Lyra's face and saw the same thing Jake had seen. She was just a scared young girl who had been hurt and abandoned. Dr. Williams, what's your medical opinion? He asked. She'll live, but she needs several weeks of recovery time. Her injuries are severe. She's no threat to anyone in her current condition. The commander nodded slowly. Very well. She stays in medical until she's recovered, but I want her monitored at all times. And Sergeant Morrison, you're responsible for her. Yes, sir. After the commander left, Jake sat down in a chair beside Lyra's bed. She looked at him with those silver mirror eyes and whispered something in her language that sounded like, "Thank you." Dr. Williams smiled as she finished bandaging Lyra's arms. I think you've made a friend, Jake. Jake looked at the alien girl who had been left to die by her own kind but saved by strangers. I think we all have. 3 days had passed since Jake brought Lyra to the base. She was getting stronger every day. Her broken arms were healing in special casts that Dr. Williams had made for her four-armed body. The purple bruises on her skin were fading, and her natural glow was becoming brighter. Jake visited her every morning before his patrol duties. He would bring her breakfast and try to talk to her using the translation device that Dr. Williams had borrowed from the communications department. The machine was slow and sometimes made mistakes, but it was better than nothing. Good morning, Lyra, Jake said as he entered the medical room with a tray of food. Lyra's skin glowed brighter when she saw him. She had learned to say good morning in English, though her accent made it sound musical. Good morning, Jake, she replied. Jake set the tray on her bedside table. Dr. Williams had figured out what foods Lyra could eat safely. She liked fruits and vegetables but could not digest meat. Her stomach was different from human stomachs. How are you feeling today? Jake asked, speaking slowly so the translation machine could keep up. Better, Lyra said in English. Then she switched to her own language and the machine translated her words. My arms hurt less. Dr. Kate says they heal good. Jake smiled. Lyra was learning English quickly. She was very smart and seemed to enjoy learning new words. Sometimes she would ask him to repeat words over and over until she could say them correctly. Jake, Lyra said, using the translation machine. I want to tell you something about my people. Okay, what do you want to tell me? Lyra was quiet for a moment, thinking about how to explain. My people are called Kithra. We live on a moon with many crystals. The crystals make music when the wind blows. That sounds beautiful, Jake said. Yes, but also sad. My people have forgotten the crystal songs. We only think about war now. Jake pulled his chair closer to her bed. Tell me about your home. Lyra's eyes became distant as she remembered. I lived in a crystal city with my family. My mother taught me to sing the old songs. My father worked in the crystal gardens where we grew our food. You have a family. Had, Lyra corrected sadly. When I was 15, the Zephyrian Empire came. They said we must join their army or our city would be destroyed. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. They forced you to be a soldier? Yes, all young Kithra must serve. The Empire takes children from many worlds to fight their wars. They said I was lucky because I am small and fast. Good for scouting missions. How old are you now? 17 of your years. I have been a soldier for 2 years. Jake stared at her. She was just a kid, younger than his little sister back on Earth, and she had been fighting in wars for 2 years. The Empire teaches us that other species are evil, Lyra continued. They said humans are savage creatures who kill for pleasure. They said you have no honor. What do you think now? Lyra looked at Jake's kind face. I think the Empire lied about many things. You saved me when my own people left me to die. You give me food and medicine and ask nothing in return. How is this savage? Jake did not know what to say. He was just doing what felt right. Jake, Lyra said quietly. Why did you help me? Your people and my people are enemies. Jake thought about the question. Because you needed help. That's what humans do. We help people who are in trouble even if they're different from us. Even enemies? You're not my enemy, Lyra. You're a kid who got caught up in a war that's not your fault. Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she said, On my world, weakness is shameful. The strong live and the weak die. There is no helping. That sounds like a lonely way to live. Yes, very lonely. I was always afraid of being weak. Afraid of being left behind. Jake reached out and gently touched her good hand. You don't have to be afraid here. We won't leave you behind. Lyra's skin glowed warmly at his touch. No one had ever promised her such a thing before. Dr. Williams came into the room carrying her medical scanner. Time for your daily checkup, Lyra. Hello, Dr. Kate, Lyra said in English. She was proud of learning the human names. Your English is getting very good, Dr. Williams said as she checked Lyra's vital signs on her scanner. Jake is a good teacher. He teaches me more than words, Lyra said through the translation machine. He teaches me about human kindness. Dr. Williams looked at Jake and smiled. Well, his vital signs show improvement every day. Her bones are healing faster than I expected. The bioluminescence in her skin is almost back to normal levels. What does bioluminescence mean? Jake asked. It means she makes her own light. See how her skin glows? That's a sign of good health in her species. When she was dying, the light was very dim. Lyra touched her own arm and watched the gentle glow under her skin. My mother used to say our light shows our emotions. Happy Kithra glow bright. Sad ones become dim. What about angry ones? Dr. Williams asked curiously. Angry Kithra flash red. Like warning lights, Jake laughed. Good thing we haven't made you angry yet. I do not think I could be angry with you, Lyra said simply. You gave me my life back. Later that afternoon, Jake was teaching Lyra a card game when the alarms started going off. Red lights flashed in the hallway and soldiers ran past the window. What is happening? Lyra asked, her skin glowing brighter with fear. Jake looked out the window and saw aircraft approaching the base. They were not human ships. They had the triangular shape of Zephyrian flyers, but these were bigger and darker. Dr. Williams, Jake called. The doctor came running into the room. 3 Kithra battle cruisers just dropped out of hyperspace, she said quickly. They're demanding we return their lost soldier. Lyra's skin went completely dim. They came for me, she whispered. You don't have to go with them, Jake said firmly. If I do not go, they will attack your base. Many humans will die because of me. That's not your fault. But Lyra was already trying to get out of bed despite her injuries. I must go. I cannot let you die for me. Jake gently pushed her back down. You're not going anywhere. You're still recovering. Commander Hayes came into the room with 2 guards. The Kithra commander wants to speak with their soldier. They're sending a shuttle down. Sir, she doesn't have to go with them, Jake protested. That may not be our choice, Sergeant. They have 3 warships and we have 1 small base. Lyra struggled to sit up straighter. Commander Hayes, I will go with them. Please do not fight because of me. The commander looked at the young alien girl who was willing to sacrifice herself to protect humans she barely knew. What will happen to you if you return to them? Lyra was quiet for a moment. They will ask me questions about your base, about your weapons and defenses. When I refuse to answer, they will punish me. How will they punish you? Death, Lyra said simply. I have been with humans too long. They will say I am contaminated, corrupted. Jake felt cold anger filling his chest. They're going to kill her for being helped by us. That is the Kithra way, Lyra said sadly. And the Zephyrian way. Weakness must be removed. Commander Hayes walked to the window and looked up at the alien ship circling overhead. Dr. Williams, how long before she's fit to travel? At least another week for the bones to heal properly. Tell the Kithra commander that their soldier is too injured to be moved. Medical necessity. Sir, they might not accept that excuse, one of the guards said. Then we'll make them accept it. This base is human territory. We decide who leaves and when. Lyra stared at the commander in amazement. You will risk war for me? We'll risk a lot of things before we hand over a kid to be executed, Commander Hayes replied. Jake squeezed Lyra's hand. We told you we wouldn't leave you behind. We meant it. Lyra's skin began to glow brighter than it had since Jake found her. For the first time in her life, she was part of a group that valued her as a person, not just as a tool for war. Outside, the Kithra ships continued to circle. Inside the medical room, Lyra learned what it meant to have people who would stand up for her. Even against overwhelming odds, Jake, she said quietly. I think I understand now why the Empire fears humans. Why? Because you fight for each other. Because you make others want to be better. That is more dangerous to them than any weapon. Jake smiled. Welcome to the human race, Lyra, even if you're not technically human. Lyra smiled back, an expression she had learned from watching the humans around her. I think being human is not about what species you are. I think it is about how you treat others. As the alien warships continued their threatening patrol overhead, Jake realized that Lyra was already more human than many people he had known, and he was determined to make sure she had the chance to stay that way. The shuttle landed outside the base with a loud roar of engines. Jake watched from the window as 6 Kithra soldiers marched toward the main gate. They were taller than Lyra, and their skin glowed with a harsh white light. Their armor was black and covered with sharp spikes. They looked nothing like the gentle girl lying in the medical bed. They look angry, Dr. Williams observed. Their skin is flashing red, Lyra said quietly. That means they are very angry. And something else. What else? Jake asked. The red flashing also means they are ready to kill. Jake felt his stomach tighten. He checked his rifle to make sure it was loaded and ready. Commander Hayes came into the room with 4 Marines. The Kithra commander wants to see their soldier. I'm going to let 2 of them come in, but they stay escorted at all times. Sir, I don't think this is a good idea, Jake said. We have to at least try to handle this diplomatically. If we refuse to let them see her, they might attack immediately. Lyra struggled to sit up in bed. Commander, please let me talk to them. Maybe I can convince them to leave peacefully. What will you tell them? That I was badly injured and you saved my life. That you treated me with honor according to your customs. That I owe you a life debt, Jake frowned. What's a life debt? In the old Kithra traditions, if someone saves your life, you belong to them until you can repay the favor. It is an ancient law that even the Empire cannot ignore completely. Will that work? Lyra's skin dimmed with uncertainty. I do not know. The Empire has made my people forget many of the old ways, but some still remember. 10 minutes later, 2 Kithra soldiers entered the medical room. Their leader was tall and thin with scars across his face. His skin flashed angry red patterns. The other soldier was younger but looked just as dangerous. The scarred leader looked at Lyra lying in the human medical bed, and his skin flashed brighter red. He spoke in the Kithra language, his voice harsh and grating like metal scraping against stone. Lyra answered him in the same language. Jake could not understand the words, but he could hear the fear in her voice. What are they saying? Dr. Williams whispered to Jake. The translation device had been turned off because Commander Hayes did not want the Kithra to know they could understand their language. Jake had to watch Lyra's face and try to guess what was happening. The conversation became louder. The scarred leader pointed at the human medical equipment and then at Jake. His skin was flashing so red it was almost painful to look at. Lyra's skin went completely dim. She shook her head and said something that sounded like pleading. The younger Kithra soldier stepped forward and grabbed one of Lyra's injured arms. She cried out in pain. Hey, Jake said sharply, moving toward the bed. Don't touch her. The scarred leader spun around and stared at Jake. His eyes were black like deep space. He said something in his language that sounded like a curse. Lyra spoke quickly, her voice getting higher with panic. The scarred leader listened and then laughed. It was a cold sound that made Jake's skin crawl. Commander Vex says I am contaminated by human weakness, Lyra said quietly in English. He says I must return to the ship for cleansing. What kind of cleansing? Commander Hayes asked. Execution, Lyra whispered. Commander Vex said something else in Kithra. Then he reached for his weapon. He says I am a traitor for speaking your language, Lyra translated. He says I will die here and now to prevent further contamination. Jake stepped between Commander Vex and Lyra's bed. Over my dead body. Commander Vex pulled out a curved blade that glowed with purple energy. The younger soldier did the same. The red flashing on their skin became so bright it hurt to look at them directly. All Marines defend the medical facility, Commander Hayes ordered into his radio. The room exploded into chaos. Commander Vex swung his energy blade at Jake, who barely rolled out of the way. The blade sliced through the metal wall like it was made of paper. Ben and Lisa came running into the room with their rifles. They opened fire on the 2 Kithra soldiers. The aliens were fast, much faster than humans. They dodged most of the bullets and struck back with their energy weapons. Dr. Williams grabbed her medical bag and dove behind an overturned table. Get Lyra out of here, she shouted. Jake tried to reach Lyra's bed, but Commander Vex blocked his path. The alien leader was incredibly strong, and his energy blade could cut through anything. Jake's rifle was nearly useless at close range. Lyra watched the battle from her bed with horror. Her people were trying to kill the humans who had saved her life. The humans were risking their lives to protect her. The younger Kithra soldier knocked Ben to the ground with a powerful kick. Ben's rifle flew across the room and he clutched his ribs in pain. The alien raised his energy blade to finish him off. "No!" Lyra screamed. She rolled out of bed despite her injuries and tackled the younger soldier. Her broken arm sent waves of pain through her body, but she ignored them. She could not let him hurt Ben. The young soldier was surprised by her attack. He stumbled backward and his energy blade missed Ben by inches. "Lyra, what are you doing?" Commander Vex demanded in Kithra. "I am protecting my friends," Lyra replied in the same language. Commander Vex's skin turned an even deeper red. "Friends? These are enemies of the Empire. You have betrayed your own species." "No," Lyra said, standing unsteadily between the Kithra soldiers and the humans. "You betrayed me first. You left me to die on that battlefield. These humans found me and gave me life when my own people abandoned me. You are weak. The weak deserve to die. Then I choose to be weak. I choose to be like the humans who value life over death, kindness over cruelty." Jake watched in amazement as Lyra faced down her own people to protect him and his friends. Her skin was glowing bright white now, brighter than he had ever seen it. Commander Vex raised his energy blade toward Lyra. "Then you will die with them." The blade came down toward Lyra's head. Jake threw himself forward and knocked her out of the way. The energy weapon sliced across his shoulder instead, burning through his uniform and into his flesh. Jake fell to the ground, clutching his wounded shoulder. Lyra knelt beside him, her skin glowing with panic and anger. "Jake, are you hurt badly?" she asked. "I'll live," Jake said through gritted teeth. Lyra looked up at Commander Vex with fury in her silver eyes. For the first time since Jake had known her, her skin began to flash red. "You hurt him," she said in English, her musical voice now hard as steel. She picked up Ben's dropped rifle with her two good arms. The weapon looked huge in her small hands, but her aim was steady. "I am not weak," she said to Commander Vex in Kithra. "I am strong enough to choose my own path." She pulled the trigger. The rifle bullet struck Commander Vex in the chest. He looked down at the wound with surprise, as if he could not believe that little Lyra had shot him. His skin stopped flashing and went completely dark. "Impossible," he whispered, and fell to the floor. The younger Kithra soldier stared at his dead commander and then at Lyra. His skin was flickering between red and white, like he could not decide whether to be angry or afraid. "Drop your weapon," Lisa ordered, pointing her rifle at him. The young soldier looked around the room. He was outnumbered and his commander was dead. Slowly, he set down his energy blade. "Tell your ships to leave," Commander Hayes ordered. "Tell them their soldier chose to stay with us." The young soldier spoke into a communication device on his wrist. Jake could not understand the words, but he could hear the shock in the voices that answered. "What did you tell them?" Dr. Williams asked. Lyra translated for him. "He told them that I killed Commander Vex and declared myself a traitor to the Empire. He told them I chose to stay with the humans. What will they do now? They will leave. But they will mark me as an enemy of the Empire. I can never go home again." Jake tried to sit up despite his wounded shoulder. "Are you okay with that?" Lyra looked around the room at the humans who had fought to protect her. Ben was hurt but alive. Lisa was bandaging Jake's shoulder wound. Dr. Williams was checking on everyone. Commander Hayes was calling for backup in case more Kithra soldiers came. "This is my home now," Lyra said softly. "These are my people." Through the window, they could see the Kithra ships moving away from the planet. The young soldier was escorted to his shuttle by human guards. Before he left, he looked back at Lyra one last time. "He said something," Dr. Williams observed. Lyra nodded. "He said that some of our people still remember the old ways, the ways before the Empire. He said there are others who might choose differently if they had the chance." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "It means maybe I am not the only Kithra who is tired of being told that weakness and kindness are shameful. Maybe there are others who want to choose their own path too." As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, Lyra helped Dr. Williams treat Jake's shoulder wound. Her touch was gentle and careful. Her skin glowed with the soft, warm light of someone who was finally home. "Thank you," she whispered to Jake. "For what?" "For showing me that being human is not about what species you are. It is about choosing to be kind when you could be cruel, choosing to help when you could ignore, choosing love when you could choose hate." Jake smiled despite the pain in his shoulder. "Welcome to humanity, Lyra. We're glad to have you." 6 months had passed since the battle in the medical facility. The scar on Jake's shoulder had healed completely, leaving only a thin white line to remember that day. Lyra's arms had also healed perfectly. Dr. Williams said she had never seen bones mend so quickly. Jake was no longer Sergeant Morrison. The military had promoted him to lieutenant colonel after his report about Lyra reached Earth Command. The story of the human Marine who saved an alien girl and sparked the first interspecies friendship had spread throughout the human colonies. Lyra was no longer a patient in the medical facility. She had her own small apartment near the base and worked as a translator and cultural advisor. She helped human diplomats understand other alien species they encountered. Her gentle manner and intelligence made her perfect for the job. "Good morning. Colonel Morrison," she said as Jake entered the communication center where she worked. "Good morning, Lyra. Any interesting messages today?" Lyra's skin glowed with excitement. "Yes, something very interesting. Come look at this." She led him to her workstation where a message was displayed on the screen. The text was in Kithra script, but there was a translation underneath. "It came through the Deep Space Relay Network," Lyra explained. "Someone is using the old trade frequencies that merchants used before the Empire banned private communication." Jake read the translation. "To the Kithra who chose the human path, we have heard your story. We want to hear more. There are dozens of us on Mining Station 7 who remember the crystal songs. Can you help us find a different way?" "Mining Station 7, Jake said. "That's in the Outer Rim territories, deep in Empire space. Yes, it is a work camp where they send Kithra who ask too many questions about the old ways. My cousin was sent there 2 years ago for teaching children the traditional songs." Jake looked at the message again. They're asking for help. They want to know if there is really a place where Kithra can live free from the Empire, where they can remember the crystal songs and make their own choices. "What do you want to do?" Lyra was quiet for a moment. Her skin shifted through different colors as she thought. "I want to help them, but it is very dangerous. Mining Station 7 is heavily guarded. The Empire will kill anyone who tries to escape. We've handled dangerous situations before. This is different, Jake. If we are caught, it will not just be me who dies. It will be you and anyone else who helps. The Empire does not forgive humans who interfere with their slaves." Jake studied the message on the screen. He thought about all the other young Kithra like Lyra, who were trapped in the Empire's military machine. Kids who had never been allowed to make their own choices or learn their people's real culture. How many people are we talking about? The message says dozens, maybe 50 or 60 Kithra and their families. That's a lot of people to evacuate. Commander Hayes walked into the communication center carrying a cup of coffee. He had been promoted to General Hayes after the successful first contact with several friendly alien species. Lyra's help had made those meetings possible. "Colonel Morrison, Lyra, what are you two plotting over here?" Lyra showed him the message. General Hayes read it carefully while drinking his coffee. "Mining Station 7, he said finally. "That's going to be a tough mission. You know about it?" Jake asked. "Intelligence has been watching that facility for months. We know the Empire is using forced labor there, mostly political prisoners and dissidents from various species. Can we get them out?" General Hayes set down his coffee cup and looked at both of them. "Officially, no. A rescue mission that deep in Empire space would be an act of war." "And unofficially?" Lyra asked. The general smiled. "Unofficially, I might know about a small exploration ship that's scheduled to have engine trouble near that sector. If the crew happened to find refugees in need of rescue, well, that would just be humanitarian aid." Jake grinned. "What kind of engine trouble?" "The kind that requires the ship to make an emergency landing at Mining Station 7 to request supplies. The kind where the crew might accidentally leave a few extra shuttle pods behind when they depart." Lyra's skin glowed brighter with hope. "You would really help us save them?" "Lyra, 6 months ago you saved this entire base by choosing to stand with us against your own people. You've helped us make peaceful contact with 4 different alien species since then. If you want to help your people escape slavery, then we'll help you do it." 3 weeks later, Jake and Lyra were aboard the exploration ship Horizon as it approached Mining Station 7. The ship was disguised as a civilian research vessel having mechanical problems. Captain Amy Rodriguez was an experienced pilot who had volunteered for the dangerous mission. "Mining Station 7 is giving us permission to land," she announced from the pilot's seat. "They're sending repair crews to help with our engine problems." Jake checked his equipment one more time. He was dressed as a civilian mechanic. Lyra wore a hooded cloak that hid her glowing skin. They would have to be very careful not to be recognized. "Remember," Jake said to Lyra, "we find your cousin first. She can help us identify which prisoners want to leave and which ones might be Empire informants." "I understand. Her name is Lyra. She was a teacher before they arrested her." The ship landed in the station's small docking bay. Through the windows, Jake could see dozens of Kithra workers being supervised by armed guards. The workers looked thin and tired. Their skin was dim and gray instead of the healthy glow that Lyra had. "They look sick," Lyra whispered, her voice full of sadness. "We'll get as many out as we can," Jake promised. They left the ship with Captain Rodriguez and her fake repair crew. The station commander, a tall Zephyrian with cold yellow eyes, met them at the airlock. "Welcome to Mining Station 7, he said in heavily accented English. "I am Commander Zane. Your engine trouble could not have happened at a worse time. We are very busy here." "We apologize for the inconvenience," Captain Rodriguez replied politely. "We just need some basic supplies and a few hours to complete repairs." "Very well. My workers will help you, but do not wander around the station. There are dangerous areas," Jake nodded. "Of course. We'll stay in the docking bay." But as soon as Commander Zane left, Jake and Lyra slipped away from the repair work. They made their way deeper into the station, following the sound of crystal chimes that only Lyra could hear. "The workers are singing," she whispered, very quietly so the guards cannot hear. "They are singing the old songs." They found the main work area where hundreds of Kithra were sorting valuable crystals under harsh lights. Guards with energy weapons watched them carefully. The workers moved slowly and their skin barely glowed at all. Lyra spotted her cousin working at a table near the back of the room. Lyra was older than Lyra but still young. Her forearms moved with practiced skill as she sorted crystals. Her skin was the same dim gray as the other workers. "How do we get her attention?" Jake asked. Lyra began to hum very softly. It was one of the crystal songs her mother had taught her years ago. Within moments, Lyra's head turned toward the sound. Her skin flickered briefly with surprise when she saw Lyra. Lyra made a small gesture toward a maintenance door on the side of the room. Then she went back to her work as if nothing had happened. Jake and Lyra waited for the guards to move to the other side of the room. Then they slipped through the maintenance door. 5 minutes later, Lyra joined them in the dark maintenance corridor. "Lyra," she whispered in Kithra, "I heard stories that you were dead, shot as a traitor." "I am alive," Lyra replied in English, "and I am here to offer you and the others a choice." She explained about the human base and the sanctuary they could provide. She told Lyra about the other alien species who had found freedom among the humans. "How many want to leave?" Jake asked. Lyra thought carefully. "Maybe 40 families. The ones who still remember who we were before the Empire. But there are also informants among us, people who report to the guards for extra food. We have shuttle pods that can hold about 50 people each," Jake said. "But we need to move quickly and quietly." Lyra nodded. "Tonight, during the shift change at midnight, I will spread the word to those we can trust." They spent the rest of the day preparing. Captain Rodriguez made sure the shuttle pods were ready and programmed with coordinates for the human base. Jake planted small explosives that would disable the station's communication array at the right moment. At midnight, the escape began. Families of Kithra workers slipped away from their sleeping quarters and made their way to the docking bay. They moved in small groups so they would not be noticed. Lyra waited at the shuttle pods, greeting each family and helping them get aboard. Many of the refugees stared at her in wonder. Her skin was bright and healthy, so different from their own gray appearance. "Is it true?" an elderly Kithra woman asked. "Are there really humans who treat us as equals?" "Yes," Lyra said gently. "They saved my life and gave me a new family. They will do the same for you." Everything was going perfectly until one of the guards noticed the missing workers. Alarms began to sound throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red. "Move faster," Jake ordered. "Get everyone aboard now." Commander Zane's voice echoed through the station's speakers. "All workers return to your quarters immediately. Anyone found outside will be shot." The last group of refugees was running across the docking bay when Empire soldiers appeared at the main entrance.